Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, the King of Saudi Arabia has snubbed President Barack Obama. Newly crowned Saudi King Salman has refused an invitation to a summit hosted by the U.S. president as a sign of his continued displeasure with the Iranian nuclear negotiations. 6 Arabian Gulf state monarchs were invited to Camp David to attend what the White House called a landmark summit, but only the Kuwaiti and Qatari heads of state accepted the invitation. The other Arab countries sent lower-level emissaries. The meeting was meant to instill faith in the nuclear talks that Washington is brokering with Tehran, but the poor turnout was a clear sign that the leaders of the Arab countries are unhappy with the direction of the negotiations. All the Gulf states have expressed concern over Obama's favorable deal with the hardline Islamic Republic, which would unfreeze over $100 billion in assets and funds. Money the Arab states fear will be used to create further unrest in the region.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation is warning that there are thousands of sympathizers with the Islamic State terror group living right in the United States. According to an FBI statement, ISIS is now using encrypted technology to reach out to and communicate with operatives in America, which makes it almost impossible to track them. The agency's director, James Comey, says that U.S.-based members of the group are being inundated with a directive to kill, kill, kill.
Pope Francis has announced that he will bestow sainthood upon 2 nuns who lived in the Holy Land in the late 1800s. During this period, the country was under Ottoman rule, and both Catholic nuns spoke fluent Arabic. Palestinian leaders are using this fact to unilaterally declare that the nuns are the first Palestinian saints. Bishop William Shumali told reporters that the nuns' canonization proves that holiness can be conjugated with the Arabic language. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem praised the canonization of the so-called Palestinian saints and has even invited PA leader Mahmoud Abbas to be an honored guest at the sainthood ceremonies.
A new report from the Amnesty International Human Rights Group is attributing the rising wave of illegal migration across the Mediterranean to cruelty by the government in Libya. The North African nation is considered a way station for refugees intent on reaching Europe. Hundreds of those seeking a better life have recently been killed in their desperate attempts to flee what Amnesty describes as the ghastly conditions that they're subjected to in Libya, including abuse, sexual violence, persecution, and human trafficking. Many migrants are forced to pay all that they have to smugglers who promise them passage to Europe, but are reported to treat them worse than animals during these journeys by starving and keeping them in inhumane conditions aboard unsafe vessels without proper ventilation. The report also found that at least 7,000 migrants are being detained right now in Libya at refugee camps in horrific conditions.
The al-Qaeda leader who claimed responsibility for masterminding the deadly attack on a French newspaper has reportedly been killed in a U.S. airstrike in Yemen. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is considered by the U.S. to be the most dangerous branch of the terrorist organization, released a statement on their website confirming that the terrorist leader and his son were killed in the strike.
We have reported extensively on the rise of anti-Semitism throughout Europe, and now new statistics have been released demonstrating the gravity of this resurgence. The Association of Jewish Organizations and Communities of Ukraine just released the findings of a survey reflecting a serious spike in anti-Jewish vandalism and violence throughout the East European nation. German security officials have also released a report documenting nearly 1,600 anti-Semitic incidents during 2014, perpetrated not only against Jewish residents, but also against Israelis traveling in the country. Germany boasts the world's fastest growing Jewish population, and the rise of anti-Semitic attacks has caused a great uproar in the community. While German Chancellor Angela Merkel recently created a special commission on anti-Semitism, she's been widely criticized for not including a single Jew on that panel.
The Netherlands is reportedly punishing a Dutch Holocaust survivor for choosing to live in the heartland of biblical Israel. In response to the rise of anti-Semitism in her home country, a 90-year-old Jewish woman recently moved to Israel. When she provided the Dutch government with her new address, she was informed that she would be penalized for choosing to live in what they claimed was disputed territory, and that her pension would be cut by 35%. The woman's son told Israel's Channel 2 television news that they are appealing the decision with a Dutch court, but that this situation has greatly upset his elderly mother, who relies on her pension to survive.
The Middle East is in the midst of a booming arms race. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Western nations, led by the United States, are selling more weaponry to Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iraq, Algeria, and the United Arab Emirates. The Institute also noted the irony of Western claims to foster peace and stability in the region, while instead providing the Middle East with more and more tools with which to wage war.
Boycott, divestment, and sanctions coordinators are beginning to see the error of their ways. Many financial analysts argue that the BDS movement has not significantly affected Israel's economy, but rather has punished hard-working Palestinians who are employed by the boycotted Israeli companies. The BDS movement has demanded that products produced in the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria be clearly marked as made in the West Bank. But this has also backfired because many consumers actually look for the Made in Israel label and purchase the products for their superior quality.
Israeli member of Knesset Robert Ilatov and the director of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, Josh Reinstein, marched with more than 2,000 Christians in Berlin in commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz and the defeat of the Nazis. The event simultaneously marked 50 years of Israeli-German relations. The founder of the Berlin March of Life program, Jobst Bittner, said that the annual procession is a statement of solidarity with Israel and symbolizes the stand against anti-Semitism. He went on to say that because of its historic responsibility for having caused the Second World War and the attempted genocide of the Jewish people, Germany is a country of unmerited grace, adding that all who remember how indifference and silence can make equally guilty must never again remain silent in the face of hatred of Jews or any form of racist injustice. Meanwhile, a similar march was also held in Jerusalem, and Yochanan has more on that.
Yes, Aaron, hundreds of Israelis joined scores of World War II veterans last week as they celebrated the 70th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany. European nations observe Veterans Day on May 8th and call it Victory in Europe Day. Jewish war heroes, clad in uniforms from nearly every Allied country, marched in the Holy City. Widows carried pictures of lost veterans, and many Israeli citizens and leaders came out to thank them for their part in defeating the Nazi regime.
Just as the Israeli military team returned home from Nepal after treating nearly 1,500 people in need of help in the aftermath of the April 25th earthquake, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu informed the soldiers that they may be ordered to return following the 7.3 magnitude quake on May 12th. The Israeli and Nepalese armies held official ceremonies during the dismantling of the hospital, which was the largest in Kathmandu. Nepalese officials thanked the Israeli people for their quick action and steady support throughout the disaster, which included the treatment of 1,427 patients, the delivery of 8 babies, and 90 life-saving surgeries. Teams of Israeli engineers and mental health care professionals also remained in the South Asian nation to continue to help the people of Nepal.
The oldest copy of the Ten Commandments is going on display at the Israel Museum. The 2,000-year-old parchment was among the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered in the caves of Qumran, but it is so fragile that archaeologists were hesitant to allow it to be shown publicly. Until now, the scroll has been stored in complete darkness in the basement of the Israel Museum due to its brittle condition. The Antiquities Authority has allowed the oldest known copy of the Ten Commandments to be displayed in an upcoming exhibit entitled A Brief History of Humankind, which will feature several ancient artifacts which they say trace mankind's most pivotal moments.
This week, the State of Israel and her supporters are celebrating Jerusalem Day, marking 48 years since the city was reunified. The occasion commemorates the 1967 victory in the Six-Day War, when the Old City was restored to the Jewish people. For 2,000 years, Jews yearned and prayed to return to the City of Light and Gold. And on the 28th of the month of Iyar on the Hebrew calendar in 1967, Jewish forces defended themselves against a Jordanian offensive and triumphantly entered the Old City. The ancient capital was quickly recaptured, and the Israeli flag flew over the Holy City, just as the prophet Zechariah vowed that, "I will bring my people back to Jerusalem, and then Jerusalem will be called the faithful city." The restoration of Jerusalem was, and remains, one of the greatest modern miracles of our time, and is the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. We here at Israel Now News would like to wish all of our viewers Yom Yerushalayim Sameach, Happy Jerusalem Day. And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Pnina Rappaport, the manager of the Israel office of the Dror Foundation. Pnina, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Pnina, tell our viewers a little bit about the Dror Foundation.
Sure. Us at the Dror for the Wounded Foundation, we strive to help as many wounded soldiers as possible with anything, whether it's financial assistance in medical treatments, psychological treatments, whether it's help with home renovations, whether it's tuition or lawyer fees, anything they could possibly need.
It seems like the government of Israel will be responsible for helping wounded soldiers. Why is there a need for this organization?
Very good question. The government of Israel sure does help, and it provides compensation, but a lot of the times the compensation doesn't cover exactly what is needed by the wounded soldier or their families. So we like to come above and beyond and help fill the gaps.
You know, this summer there was the operation in Gaza where there was unprecedented amount of attacks on Israel. Not a lot is talked about the wounded soldiers. Were there a lot of soldiers wounded in that battle? And if so, what is being done for them?
There were many, unfortunately, many wounded soldiers in the battle in Gaza over the summer. What has been done for them is that a lot are trying to still recuperate in the hospitals. The rehab centers are full still with these soldiers, and that's exactly where we want to come in and help out. We try hone in on the soldiers. One thing that we do that's very unique is we're a small organization, so we have the capacity to go to each individual soldier and look at them at their specific case, at their specific situation, and decide exactly what we can do to help them out.
You know, a lot of people don't understand that in Israel, the standing army is quite small, and most of our army comes from reserve. How does that affect wounded soldiers who are actually a reserve army and have a profession? How do they finance the stuff for their family?
That is a very good question. We do not discriminate at all. It doesn't matter whether they are a reserve soldier or a soldier from the age of 18. Doesn't matter to us. If there is a wounded IDF soldier who needs our help, we are there for them.
Is these programs developed for people who are physically wounded or psychologically wounded as well?
Anything as well. Like I said before, it's case by case. So we like to look at the case, see exactly what they need and exactly how we can help to benefit them, to help alleviate the pain. They've been through so much. Their families can be honestly torn apart from this. It's a horrible change in their life, just like that. And so we're there. We want to help them.
You know, in Israel, we don't hear a lot about post-traumatic stress from the conflicts. Is that something that's an issue here in Israel?
Sure, 100%. A lot of the soldiers we do help suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. In fact, one of the most recent Chayalim soldiers we've helped, he was fighting in the operation in Gaza in the summer, and he was injured from a mortar that fell within 3 meters from where he was sitting. In that same attack, he was sitting with 4 of his friends, and unfortunately, completely incomprehensibly, those 4 friends were killed. So his mother came to me, obviously very distraught, with one of her biggest concerns being the PTSD, and she wanted to see exactly how we could help him out to obviously avoid that reality setting in later on. So she decided, you know, his big passion in his life is he just wants to bring joy to people through music. And his biggest dream is to be a DJ. So we decided at the foundation, what can we do to help? We would love to provide DJ equipment for him so he could practice and eventually perform in concerts. And what do you know, a few weeks ago we received a photo of him being a DJ at a massive concert. It was amazing.
You know, that brings up a good point, because there are also civilians who are wounded in battle. Are they considered people who are in the conflict, soldiers, or is that a different department altogether?
It is a different department altogether, yeah. We like to look specifically at the IDF soldiers because the foundation itself was founded by a wounded soldier. So it's founded by the wounded, for the wounded. So we like to look specifically at the soldiers.
You know, you mentioned also that you have an office in New York City. Is this something that's done primarily through America and the States, or is it an international organization?
We are very small at the moment. We do have an office in New York, but we would love to branch out to as many countries as possible. We work very closely hand in hand between Israel and New York. My job, for example, is to go out and speak to the Chayalim, see exactly how we can help, and I relay all the information to our New York office. And they are phenomenal with fundraising, raising awareness, all these sorts of things. They're incredible, and without the US support, we wouldn't have a foundation.
Nina, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Our ultimate goal at the Drawer for the Wounded Foundation is to make sure that hopefully one day, we really hope that there will not be a need for our organization, that there will not be any more wounded soldiers. But unfortunately, until that day, we are here, and we have a very small budget to work from, and with our budget, we're trying to help as many soldiers as possible. So therefore, we're trying to seek to the world to raise awareness to help us out in this very important cause.
Thank you, Miriam, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
I would have never said a year ago that this would happen on my campus. 30-something% Jews, proud Jews, Zionists, you know, such strong Jewish and Israel community, pro-Israel communities. This would never happen. It happened. People were being, you know, verbally, maliciously attacked for saying, I believe in the right to a state of Israel. The anti-Israel sentiment has only escalated.
Nazi king! Nazi king!
The campus is going to become more and more polarized.
Things have just gotten a lot crazier and more negative on campus.
The negativity and the loudness, the abrasiveness on campus make it difficult for me to be open about supporting Israel.
A lot of students feel harassed and uncomfortable in their own living situation.
I don't think it's acceptable criticism of Israel when Israel becomes villainized, when Israel becomes the big bad devil.
You see these pamphlets that depict Jews with hooked noses and sucking children's blood, and I think that is classic anti-Semitism.
Students for Justice in Palestine hold an event called Israel Apartheid Week, where they lie about Israel for a week in a way that demonizes the state of Israel.
There's people who are pretending to be soldiers at checkpoints.
Filthy Arab, an Israeli life is worth more than all of you combined.
They were having a die-in, which is students lying, kind of pretending to be dead in the middle of campus. They're kind of trying to intimidate and frighten people on campus.
If we just look at the issues that people are focusing on, human rights issues in general, these are issues that are not even on par with the human rights violations that are happening in so many other places in the world.
The vote of 20 to 12 to 1 that passes.
Pro-Israel students who spoke at the Central Student Government vote faced threats from various groups.
All of these disparaging insults, accompanied by threats of violence, are messages that I and other members of Central Student Government have been receiving this past week.
Students were also called dirty Jews, things like this. Especially those on Central Student Government were called on the phone saying, "We know where you live, like vote with us or else."
To say that this is a non-violent, peaceful movement, I would seriously disagree, especially with the number of emails and harassing texts and harassing voicemails and harassing calls that have caused me to miss class for a week.
When there are times with high pressure, like during this divestment vote, students are definitely intimidated. A lot of the pro-Palestinian students were screaming and just very offensive towards the pro-Israel students who spoke at the meeting.
It's a little bit scary because I kind of never know how students will react to my pro-Israel sentiment. Even openly talking with other students on campus and professors especially.
So we can say this, and Hamas is a terrorist organization, sure. They also do great healthcare and kindergartens. But Hamas doesn't recognize Israel. So what?
You see it in Columbia, Saliba, Khalidi, Masad. They're all tenured professors, and they're all expressing their very anti-Israel and distorted views on the students.
As a student, the power dynamics are there. I feel powerless in a sense and very intimidated that these figures of authority and academic knowledge are basically invalidating everything I support.
They will stage a walkout, in some cases even curse at the speaker. They're notorious for doing this.
My only purpose today is that this event is shut down.
Donnie Garber speaks for Israeli apartheid.
Donnie Garber speaks for Israeli apartheid.
Genocide in the hands of the IDF.
It sounds like it was a very specific thing that happened nationally. They had their very specific script that they were reading from a piece of paper about how Noni Darwish supports Israeli apartheid. It's nationally organized. It's not something that students came up with at UNM.
They're not saying, let's have these borders. They're saying, let's have all of Israel gone. Israel has no right to exist.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
What it essentially means is that from the river, meaning the Jordan River, to the sea, meaning the Mediterranean Sea, Palestine will be free, meaning all of Israel, as it currently exists, will be dissolved, and in its place will be a Palestinian state.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
In 1980, the Israeli parliament passed a law declaring a united Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the State of Israel. Threatened by the Arab League with an oil embargo, national embassies in Jerusalem closed their doors. That same year, Christians from around the world gathered in Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. Sensing the isolation of the Israeli people, the participants and leaders of this gathering decided to establish the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is since more than 30 years right here in Jerusalem to connect the global church with the nation of Israel. For many Jewish people throughout the centuries, the only face of Christianity, what they experienced, was the ugly face of anti-Semitism, of Christians persecuting the Jewish people wherever they found them. As Christian Embassy, we are here in Israel to show a new face of the church, a new face of Jesus Christ to the Jewish people. We are here to affirm to Israel and to the nation that God is a covenant-keeping God, that God is a God who didn't abandon His people, but that He is faithful to every single promise which He has made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
What an amazing thought, that when everyone was abandoning Israel, Christians stepped in and said, we will stand with Israel and we will have an embassy in Jerusalem.
Already for more than 30 years, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is reaching out all over the land, from the north to the south, from the east to the west, to reach those people that are in need.
And these people are, of course, the Jewish people who live in this land. But we've also been reaching out to the Christian Arab, to the Muslims, to the Bedouin, and to the Druze that are part of the population of Israel.
Our vision is to build relationships, to foster reconciliation, and to reach out with God's love by responding to the social needs that come across our desk every single day. Through the projects that we do, we hope to provide a better future for the people of Israel and to reach out with hope to those who need it most.
With representation in more than 80 countries around the globe, the ICEJ is actively working to be the connection of the Christian Church worldwide to Israel.
To say that we want to reach every country in the world, it's not just a saying, it's a mandate from God that we are to reach into every nation of the world, find those willing to represent their nation and stand with Israel in these days. It's prophetic, it's significant, and it's absolutely world-changing.
Through our publications, TV programs, digital media platforms, and annual events such as the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles, we are providing resources and opportunity for the Church to connect and engage in being an active part of what God is doing today in the nation of Israel.
You know, the truth is, the work of the ICJ is more important now than it's ever been. With Israel at the eye of the Middle East storm, we must stand with Israel and we must stand with the Jewish people to see God move in our generation right here in the land.
It's so important to educate the church regarding Israel from the Word of God and in the Bible. There's a lot of theory among the Christians speaking about Israel and a lot of opinions, but we do have to go to the Word of God with the revelation of the Holy Spirit actually, so the church can really understand that without the Jewish people and without Israel, there wouldn't be any church, there wouldn't be any Bible, there wouldn't be any salvation.
I want to personally invite you to find out more how you can connect yourself or your church with the nation of Israel. I look forward to hearing from you.
To learn more about how you can connect with what God is doing today in Israel, visit our website at www.icej.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.